Full shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's some social shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this be myself, so hit me. Woo! I mean, like, we can put all that clown shit away. There's some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah. It's in their bones, the thugs in harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse with only few who make me feel like I be 10 feet.
Yes, people, we are back in the damn building, and today's video for me is going to be a special one, and we're going to be taking a look at one of my favorite players in world football at this current moment in time, and that is Jamal Musiala. So a lot of people always ask me, like, gee, why is it you always big up, Jamal Musiala? Why is he, your favorite player, out there in football? Everyone knows if Liverpool ever signed Jamal Musiala, I would be absolutely over the moon. I think he's one of the best players in world football. Of course, currently playing for Bayern Munich, moving from Chelsea all those years ago. A German international, could have played for England, but England fumbled the bag in that regards. I just think that it is quite simple as to why he is probably my favorite player in world football, to be honest with you. And I think it's because he's very similar in terms of style of play as two other players that I admire quite a lot. And that is, of course, Messi and Iniesta. Now, before anyone loses their rag and starts saying, oh my goodness, how could he possibly say that? It's not that I believe that he could reach their kind of level, so to speak, in terms of, I don't think anybody will reach Messi's level anyway. And I think if he turns out to be as good as Iniesta was, in the end, then, he's had an absolutely fantastic career. If you just look at the way that he plays, if you see his style of play, the way he dribbles, the way he moves with the ball, the way, he can hold off opponents, the way he just, slaloms through players, it's not necessarily done with a, would I say, like skills or, tricks and flicks and things like that. It's the close ball control. Sometimes even little things like the first touch that he takes, with the ball, knowing where his opponent is, little things like that are why I feel like he's so similar to those two. Especially when we're talking about Iniesta as well. I know people, some people say Messi, and to be honest, I'm at a loss as to which one is he more like. I would probably say Iniesta just by a little bit, and I think it's just because of the position that he plays in terms of he's someone who, of course, Messi can drop deep, but, Iniesta can play all in the midfield, he can play out wide, he can play through the middle. I feel like he's more akin to an Iniesta as opposed to a Lionel Messi, who I don't really want to compare anybody with him. I kind of want to leave Messi, to his own devices, leave him as that player who was just this wonderful player that, we never really, we can never really compare to. I mean, of course, Iniesta right behind Lionel Messi as, probably my second favorite player, of all time in football. They just have this similarity about them in terms of the way that they play. So I'm going to lean more towards the side of Iniesta. But again, I can totally understand if someone was to say, or someone was trying to argue the point of him playing in terms of his playing style like a Lionel Messi. I can totally understand. And again, the fact that I'm talking about two of the probably greatest players, one who's generation, well, to be honest, both are generational players, but greatest players you've probably ever seen play the game of football. That should tell you the type of ability of the player that we are talking about. Again, I think when you're looking at even these type of clips and stuff like that, and you could go on YouTube and probably spend all day just watching someone like Jamal Musiala in terms of the way that he plays. Of course, listen, we're currently having the debate at this current moment in time in society about, aesthetics versus stats and things like that. And I totally understand why, and I get it to a certain degree as to why people prefer either or, in my case, I kind of prefer a player to have both. And I feel like we're not talking about a player who just aesthetically looks really good. Of course, these highlights here are absolutely fantastic. They're showing all of his best bits, but I think people also miss the bits where, this is a player who can play left wing. This is a player who can play right wing. He can play up front. I've seen him play central midfield. I've seen him play in the DM position as well. And again, in every single position that he's played in, he's looked absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. You know, this is a player with the highest of IQs that you can possibly think of. You know, he's got so much to his game. You know, forget the dribbling and the close ball control. It's the awareness, it's the, as I mentioned before, the IQ, the positioning. You know, he's got the skill. He can, as I mentioned, play in that midfield, and he doesn't seem like he shirks any challenges. You know, he seems to understand the game quite a lot, and I think that will always bode well for any player, you know, at any age. And the fact that Jamal Musiala is still quite young, you know, this isn't a player who's, you know, been here for about 10-15 years. You know, he's only been here a few years, you know, since leaving Chelsea and then of course moving on to Bayern Munich. I do definitely think, you know, he will make that big move. And I know it sounds weird because he is currently playing, you know, for Bayern Munich, but I actually do believe that there's a Real Madrid or a Barcelona, or potentially even in the EPL, that are still waiting for someone like a Jamal Musiala. And I think once he does make that move, and again, this isn't to disrespect Bayern Munich, because of course they are a massive club, and you know, if potentially they can go on, and you know, they have got really good team with players like, you know, 𝐒𝐔𝐁𝐒, you know, now, you know, in there at Bayern Munich, and then of course with Jamal Musiala, Harry Kane, you know, 𝐒𝐔𝐁𝐒, 𝐒𝐔𝐁𝐒, Sané. They've got all of these brilliant players, of course, but you know, there's just another, would I say commercially, there's another level to this game of football that we all know, and I think it probably is a Real Madrid. If there's any space in that team and they can find a way, I feel like that would probably be a club that he would go to. And if he does go to a club like Real Madrid, listen, it's end game for everybody. You know, this is Avengers style end game, you know, for everybody, if I'm being totally honest with you. And I just think that that's probably what is currently waiting for him in the wings. But again, listen, he seems like a quiet guy who's just trying to play his football, do his thing, and then, you know, take it from there. But there will come a point where he probably will start to think, listen, I can go up another level. I can be in those Ballon d'Or conversations. I can't see why not. You know, talent alone, but also he's getting the numbers, and the GA, as everybody loves to call it. It's now really just the trophies. And I think even with the trophies, of course, he's won a Bundesliga title already, so that's not going to be a problem. I think it's more about the Champions League. Of course, if he can win 3 Champions Leagues in the next few years with Bayern Munich, then of course this all becomes quite mute, and he could potentially stay there and, you know, still do his thing. But if not, and he feels that going elsewhere, you know, maybe going to a Real Madrid potentially, you know, or whoever it might be out there in world football, and he feels that that could be achieved, I honestly believe you are talking about a future Ballon d'Or winner. That's my personal opinion, of course. It's always quite interesting to see as well, you know, players that he, you know, gets compared with in today's day and age. So obviously one of those being Florian Wirtz, who is another fantastic, you know, talent player. You know, the things he can do with the football, you know, absolutely amazing. And this is another player, you know, coming from, you know, crazy injury. And I think looking at those two currently playing for the German national team as well, both young players, you know, coming through and stuff like that, it's going to be an interesting time, you know, for the German national team over the next few seasons. You know, you've got players like Angelo Stiller as well in the midfield, another player kind of, you know, pushing his way through. I think they're going to have a really, really good team in a few years, and I think these two players are going to be, you know, at the top of it. If I'm being totally honest with you, if, you know, Germany are going to get any level of success. But ladies and gentlemen, that is Jamal Musiala. It's so weird with a player like him. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what's next, if I'm being totally honest with you, because I already see him as, you know, one of the best players in the world, you know, in terms of just as a player. You know, I do think he's actually up there, but maybe just doesn't get the PR that, you know, other players, you know, get, like the Jude Bellinghams of this kind of world, and Vinicius's and Valverde's, and, you know, all of these, of course, they're Real Madrid players, and I get that, you know, understandably, Real Madrid is the biggest club, but I feel like, you know, talent-wise, he's actually up there with those guys. And I think if you put him in the same team, you would notice that, you know, he does not look out of place and could potentially even be better than some of those players. But listen, at this moment in time, he's doing his thing for both Germany and Bayern Munich. As I mentioned before, he is one of my favourite players. I would love if Liverpool were to sign someone like Jamal Musiala, but I know that's quite unrealistic unless something dramatic or a miracle happens, but you never know. I'm putting it out there in the ether that Liverpool will one day hopefully sign Jamal Musiala. Guys, let me know your thoughts on Musiala in the comment section. Love for watching. Peace.